Mwalimu.
You see, I recall when the Anti-Corruption Commission was established by law, it was established to actually end corruption in Kenya. That was its mandate. It was actually supposed to be the solution to the problem of an Attorney General who had refused to, failed to prosecute corruption for, the previous period. So I think don't take it as a personal criticism.
No.
And the Commission tends to be rather defensive. It always has this problem. The expectations of you are very high. And at the end of the day, it is for the people who pay for your operation to judge. So as one of those people, I'm telling you that we don't believe you've been effective. So workshops are fine. The collaborations with institutions are fine, but until we see some evidence that your investigative reports have resulted in a conviction, and a conviction at a higher level, so you start looking up, not down here, you're going to have great difficulty in justifying whether you're fulfilling your mandate, because your mandate was very clear. But you see, that's the problem of Kenya, that you can't expect one institution to do it alone. If there are people sitting with impunity in cabinet and they've been named as key perpetrators of the Anglo leasings or the Goldenbergs of this country, then nobody will believe that the Anti-Corruption Commission is effective if you can't say exactly what I'm saying.
In the last few days, though, of course, we have had a few high-profile returns of title deeds. For instance, the Kenyatta International Conference Center. Now, what sort of deals, because that was returned by an individual, according to what was told to the public, what sort of engagements do you enter with individuals, or can you name the individuals perhaps who are returning these assets?
In the year 2007, there was a constitutional miscellaneous amendment. In those amendments, it was now possible for the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission to receive confessions from people who then come and make a full disclosure of what they took from the public, and when they surrender that which they took from the public under Section 25A and 56B of ASECA, then the Commission, the Director of the Commission, the Minister for Justice, and the Attorney General are allowed by law to consider granting a pardon, Now, there are mechanisms through which, if one really needed to know the names, then they follow those procedures. We do have things like need to know and right to know. So if you follow the proper mechanisms, then you will access that information.
Are we saying that that information is in the public limelight?
Yes, because then it becomes, a public issue. The return of the property is not done behind closed doors. There is a public pronouncement. We took back 100 acres. We have taken back KICC, and many more pieces of property will come back. So my advice to people who have taken public property is for them to come and make that disclosure, because the law allows them that avenue. We've discovered that prosecutions are very, very time-consuming and very costly. Why don't you just calm down and make that disclosure?
Mwalimu.
You see, Section 25A, Section 56B, first, I think they're fairly controversial because entrusting those three, the Director, the Attorney General, and the Minister of Justice, could be an unwise decision, because they could, for example, have a vested political interest in doing certain things. The most famous instance, even before KICC, was the Grand Regency Hotel. That's actually how it was handed back to government, and we know what happened. So at the end of the day, I think, why don't we do this? Do the hard way, do the prosecutions, so that there can be no doubt that you are determined to actually punish people. Now, the other thing is, you have a power under the law for suits for civil recovery. And if you win your suit, then that person who has taken our property and has lost his case will have to pay us the costs on top of that, so that there's some measure of a punitive sort of sanction. I think Out-of-court settlements are when you have now found that you have not enough energy or resolve to pursue something. It's probably too expensive to do. Your case is not as solid, so you have to plea bargain with somebody. I don't think it's necessary for most of the grand corruption that we've seen. I don't see why we shouldn't actually repeal that law and leave it to the normal due process. Those two statutes, I think, are open to abuse. And I think that the Grand Regency Hotel was the best example. And if it's true that Kenyatta International Conference Center had been transferred to an individual, I think that it is immoral that we haven't been told who that individual is, so that we can cross the street when we see him.
From what you're saying, it's, we have to have a measure of good faith. We cannot suspect everybody that if you're in that position, then you are likely to misuse or abuse that position. There has to be an element of good faith, that the officers entrusted with these responsibilities are people of a certain measure of integrity. Right now, we are exercising a lot of good faith. Why do we believe that sitting here, this floor will not open up and swallow us? So there is a lot of faith and hope. And I think with the laws that are in place, with the new constitution that is now going to allow for a new architecture, not only of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, but the entire country. All the relationships in this country are going to be redefined, right from the executive to the grassroots. So this is a golden opportunity to do some of the things you're saying, all of us collectively.
When we talk about doing it, though, in good faith, the Anti-Corruption Commission doing it in good faith, having a lot of good faith, how many people are coming forward to say, for instance, okay, you're doing it in good faith, here is what I took?
No, I'm not saying that the Commission operates on good faith. I was answering his question that the provision is likely to be abused. We are solidly using the laws as established. We are also using the institutional framework. And we must remember that issues of corruption are essentially a governance failure. And therefore we should be asking ourselves, what are the institutions that constitute the governance chain? And problems come in where that link is weakest. So we look at the law enforcement, we look at the judiciary, we look at the public state, law state office. And in this debate, citizens do play a critical role, either in participating in corruption or in agreeing and deciding to fight against corruption. Look at 2003.
Perhaps I could jump in,
yes,
because I would say that there's absolutely not a single record of any corruption revelation coming from within any of those three institutions that sit on that sort of secret panel to forgive looters. Not a single one time have you ever revealed to us the scale. It is the citizens who have been telling you about corruption, and we tell MPs who go and put it on the floor. So I'm saying it's unsafe and it's unnecessary, because what we would prefer as Kenyans is to have the Attorney General or the DPP do his job, to have the Anti-Corruption Commission do his job, to have the Minister of Justice do his job of advising government and representing your institutions in Parliament, but not for you to now start constituting judicial forums to forgive. Because as I understand it, before that law was passed, I looked at the Hansard, not a single sentence can be found in Hansard of any debate of whether or not this was a safe or an unsafe clause to put into our law.
We're going to continue this debate in a minute, but first I'll take you over to our City Center studios, where Njoroge Mwaura will take you through part of the day's news. Our topic of discussion tonight is on corruption, petty and grand. How effective is the anti-corruption campaign? And in a minute, we'll be bringing you our big question for tonight. Should the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission publicize the details of its asset recovery agreements? We will return to that debate in a minute.